Hello again and welcome back to our course on Access 2013 Advanced. In the last three sections you've been learning quite a bit about macros, and we've concentrated quite a bit as well on the auto exec macro. Now, one of the things that you can't be too careful about as far as macros are concerned is macro security. Because one of the ways that people with malicious intent can do damage to the contents of your computer is by running harmful code. And as far as access is concerned, harmful code is generally carried within macros VBA code. And if somebody can entice you to run a harmful macro or some harmful VBA code on your computer, then that code can do a lot of damage. Now, macro security in Access 2013 I don't think is particularly difficult to understand, but you do need to understand it in order to make it work for you and not to become really annoying. Some people, I think, don't take enough trouble to set things up correctly, and they finish up with security messages that really do get on their nerves. But it's pretty straightforward. Let's look at one or two fundamental aspects of it first. If you go into the Access options and down to the Trust Center, one of the options within the Trust Center here is Trust Center Settings. So click on Trust Center Settings, and the first thing to look at is Macro Settings. Now, there are four possible settings for macros for your installation of Access 2013. The first option is a very drastic one: disable all macros without notification. That means that all macros and VBA code are disabled and you're not even prompted to enable them. Now, if you get an Access database from somewhere and it's got an auto exec macro that's important and it's not harmful, you don't realize there's an auto exec macro, it basically will not run. And therefore this can produce some somewhat surprising results. Now, having said that, it's probably the safest option of all, because macros and VBA code just won't run. I don't know anybody that has this setting on on a regular basis, but obviously if you're very cautious, that is one option that's available to you. The second option is the recommended one: disable all macros with notification. That's the default setting and the one that I use as well, which basically says don't run any macros, but if you come across something, tell me about it and give me the option of running it. Now, I should point out that you need to consider this one in association with what we're going to look at in a minute or two's time in terms of trusted documents and trusted locations. Because once you have trusted a database, or you have trusted a location where you store some databases, then macros and VBA code in those won't be disabled. So once you've accepted a particular database as a trusted document, then from that point onwards you won't constantly get security reminders about it. I think this option works very well. You'll very often, when you get databases that you've not used before, if they haven't got any macros or VBA code in them, you'll just be able to open them and use them as normal because they're not going to have harmful contents. If they do have macros or VBA code, you'll be warned. You'll be told, there's some macro here, there's a bit of VBA code here, do you want me to run it? You might then look at the database again and say, oh, who did I get that from? What's this database all about? And if you're not absolutely confident in the safety of that database and the macros and VBA code that it contains, you can elect not to run the macros and VBA code from that database. The third option relates to digitally signed macros. If you get databases, perhaps including macros and VBA codes, say on a regular basis from a supplier, you can ask them to digitally sign what they're supplying you with. You can then check the digital signature, you can make sure that it's valid, and then on the basis of it being valid, you can accept the macros and VBA code within the database or databases you're being supplied with. Now, clearly you would need to make specific arrangements with a supplier who is digitally signing their work, but that is quite a popular, not particularly widely used, but where it is used, it's a very important security feature. And many suppliers of databases, macros, VBA code will digitally sign their work, and they will give you the means to check their digital signatures to ensure that what you're getting is valid and verified code. In the cases where the digital signature is not there, then you're in the unsigned macros situation. Then there is the regular kind of prompt advising you that the digital signature is not present and giving you the option of opening the database or not, running the macros or VBA code or not. The fourth option is one that I would certainly never use: enable all macros. As it says in the brackets there, not recommended, potentially dangerous code can run. I suggest you don't ever use that option either. I'm going to put my setting back to the default, disable all macros with notification, and let's take a quick look at a couple of the other options here in the Trust Center. Now, when you trust a database in Access 2013, it gets added to your trusted documents list. You can't actually see the trusted documents list in Access 2013 or in any other of the components of Office 2013. There is an add-in you can get which will show you some of these, but I don't think it shows you Access databases. Not really sure about that. You might want to check it out. The list of trusted documents is actually kept in a fairly deeply coded form within the registry on your device. You can clear the list, so if you get to a stage where you've been trusting documents, maybe trusting databases, and you really want to start again, you're not sure, you've maybe found a problem with one of the databases that you previously trusted, you can clear the list by pushing this button here. You have an option here to say whether you allow documents on a network to be trusted or not, and you can actually disable your trusted documents if you get a doubt that one of the documents you've trusted is actually trustworthy. So the number of options there, but be aware of that list. Very often, once you've trusted a particular database, you don't really want to have to keep going in every time you open it and clicking on enable editing and so on. So the trusted documents feature I think is a really good feature, but things can go wrong and you can find out you've trusted something that you shouldn't have, so be aware of these other settings as well. Now, apart from the trusted documents feature, there's a trusted locations feature. As you can see, I've already got a couple of locations here where I've trusted the location. One of them is a location for a wizard, and the other one is my Scratch folder, or a subset of my Scratch folder, where I store the assets database, and any database in that folder, in that user location, will be trusted and I won't get the security warnings. And finally, in fact right at the top of the list, I can actually have a list of trusted publishers. Not really particularly relevant to what we're doing in Access, but it's another aspect of trust and the Trust Center in Office 2013, and I suggest you just look on the Help for Trusted Publishers to explain that to you. So that's it on macro security, which includes VBA security in Access 2013. And for the moment, that's it on macros. But we are going to have a look at VBA code as well. So I'll see you in the next section.